They called him useless. Then he saved them. Tom lived at the edge of the small town, in a creaky wooden house with peeling paint. He was 20, but most people spoke about him like he was still a child. He was different. He worked slower, spoke softer, and sometimes needed more time to understand things. The townsfolk didn't care to understand. Useless Tom, they called him. The nickname stuck like glue. At the grocery store, kids laughed when he dropped a bag. At the gas station, men chuckled when he fumbled with coins. Even the mayor once muttered, "That boy's a burden." Tom never answered back. He would just lower his eyes, mutter "sorry," and keep going. Only his mother defended him. She'd take his hands in hers and whisper, "You're not useless, Tom. You just see the world differently." But when you hear the same cruel words every day, they start to sound like truth. At night, Tom sat alone on the porch, staring at the forest beyond town. He liked the quiet. Unlike people, the trees never judged him. He listened to the owls, memorized the rustle of leaves, learned the paths that wound deep into the woods. What others ignored, he noticed: the hidden trails, the sound of running water, the signs of storms before they came. Nobody knew it yet, but the very things that made him different were about to make him the one person the whole town would need. It happened on a hot summer night. The annual town fair was in full swing, music blasting, kids chasing each other between stalls, the air thick with the smell of fried food. Tom was there too, carrying supplies for a neighbor. As always, he stood on the sidelines, watching quietly while the others laughed and danced. No one noticed him. They never did. Then came the first spark. A faulty wire on one of the rides snapped, showering sparks onto the dry grass. Within seconds, flames leapt up, hungry and fast. Panic spread faster than the fire itself. "Fire! Fire!" someone screamed. People pushed and stumbled, trying to escape. The main road was jammed with cars, horns blaring as drivers panicked. Parents screamed for their children. The fire spread toward the fairground tents, trapping a group of kids inside. The mayor shouted orders, but nobody knew what to do. The fire truck was still miles away, and the smoke was thickening by the second. And then, through the chaos, Tom's voice broke out, "Follow me, this way." At first, nobody listened. Why would they? Useless Tom giving directions. But when he sprinted toward the forest path, a few desperate parents chased after him. Tom knew every trail, every shortcut through the woods. He knew where the river curved closest to the fairground. If they could get the children there, they might stand a chance. The same boy they had laughed at was suddenly the only one moving with purpose. Smoke filled the night sky, thick and choking. The flames snapped at the tents like angry beasts. Inside one of them, children cried, too scared to run. Tom didn't hesitate. He ducked under the flapping canvas, his shirt catching sparks, and shouted, "Come with me, don't be scared, I know the way out." The kids clung to him, their faces streaked with soot. Outside, parents screamed their names, too terrified to run into the fire themselves. Tom held the smallest child on his back and gripped two more by their hands. "Stay low," he called, his voice hoarse but steady. "This way." He guided them not toward the blocked road, but down a narrow hidden trail only he knew, one that curved away from the flames and toward the riverbank. The path was rough, twisted with roots, but Tom knew it by heart. He'd walked it 100 times in silence, memorizing every turn. Behind him, parents followed desperately, tripping and stumbling, but trusting him now. For once, nobody laughed. The children coughed and sobbed, but Tom didn't stop. He kept pushing forward until the trees opened and the cool rush of the river appeared. He helped the kids kneel by the water, soaking their clothes to guard against sparks. By the time the fire trucks finally arrived, dozens of people were huddled safely by the river because Tom had led them there. The same boy they had called useless was the reason they were alive. When the firefighters finally contained the blaze, The fairground was nothing but blackened wood and smoking ashes, but by the river, families clung to each other, children wrapped in blankets, safe. Everyone knew why. The mayor, his face pale with ash, stood before the crowd. His voice shook as he said, "If it weren't for Tom, we would have lost so many more." Dozens of eyes turned toward him, the boy they had always mocked. Parents who once laughed behind his back now wept openly, hugging their children tighter. Jason Miller, the loudest man in town and Tom's biggest tormentor, stepped forward. He couldn't even look Tom in the eyes. I was wrong," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Tom shifted uneasily, staring at the ground. He wasn't used to praise. "I just did what anyone would have done," he mumbled. "But the silver-haired judge from the art story earlier? Wait, different story, sorry." But the crowd disagreed. "No," a mother cried, her voice breaking. "You did what none of us could. You saved our children." For the first time in his life, Tom didn't feel invisible. The word useless no longer hung over him. It had burned away with the flames. Yet standing by the river with his soot-stained hands, Tom didn't feel proud. He just felt relieved. Relieved that the woods he had once escaped into had finally given him a way to prove his worth. And deep inside, something stronger began to grow. A quiet certainty. Maybe his mother had always been right. The days after the fire felt unreal. The town was shaken, but everyone was talking about one thing: Tom. For the first time, people knocked on his door, not to mock or complain, but to say thank you. Mothers brought pies. Fathers clapped him on the shoulder with trembling hands. Even kids who used to laugh at him now whispered his name with respect. But Tom didn't change overnight. He was still the same quiet boy, still moving a little slower, still fumbling sometimes. What changed was the way people saw him. At the grocery store, the cashier smiled instead of sighing when he counted his coins. At the gas station, the men who once joked about him now said, "Evening, Tom," with genuine warmth. One afternoon, the mayor visited his house. He handed Tom a certificate with gold letters. "For courage and bravery in the face of danger." The mayor cleared his throat. "The truth is, Tom, we failed you. We judged you without ever trying to know you, and when the time came, you did what none of us could. You saved us all." Tom stared at the paper, unsure what to say. His mother, standing beside him, wiped away tears. "I always told him he wasn't useless," she whispered. That night, Tom sat again on his porch, listening to the forest. The same trails, the same owls, the same quiet. Only now, when people passed his house, they waved, and instead of hiding, Tom lifted his hand and waved back. For once, he didn't feel like a shadow at the edge of town. He felt like he belonged. A week later, the town decided to do something they had never done before: celebrate Tom. The mayor announced a gathering in the rebuilt square. At first, Tom didn't want to go. Crowds made him nervous, and he still felt like the awkward boy everyone remembered. But his mother insisted, "You deserve this, Tom. Let them see you for who you really are." When they arrived, Tom froze. The square was packed. Families, children, even the firefighters. A banner stretched across the stage. "Thank you, Tom." The mayor gave a speech, but the crowd's eyes were on Tom. Then, unexpectedly, voices rose together. Applause, cheers, people chanting his name. "Tom! Tom! Tom!" His face burned, and for a moment he wanted to run. But then he saw the children he had carried through the smoke, waving at him, smiling. Their parents stood behind them, tears in their eyes. The mayor handed him a medal, small and simple but heavy with meaning. "This belongs to our hero," he declared. Tom swallowed hard. Hero. Nobody had ever called him that before. He glanced at his mother. Her eyes shone with pride. He stepped up to the microphone, his voice shaky. I'm not special. I just did what I knew. The woods, the river, they've always been my friends. That night, I only wanted to help. The square fell silent, listening to every word. For once, nobody saw useless Tom. They saw the boy who had saved them, who had risked everything when no one else knew what to do. When the cheering finally faded, Tom stepped down from the stage. People reached out to shake his hand, to thank him once more. But what mattered most was the look on his mother's face. Calm, proud, as if she had been waiting for this moment his whole life. From that day forward, the name Useless Tom disappeared. At the grocery store, kids called him Brave Tom. At the gas station, men greeted him with respect. And whenever people walked the forest trails, they whispered, "He showed us these paths. He saved us here." Tom still spent evenings on his porch, listening to the forest, sketching its shapes in his notebook. He hadn't changed who he was. He was still quiet, still gentle, still moving at his own pace. But now he knew. Being different never meant being worthless. The fire had burned away more than tents and rides. It had burned away the lies people told about him. And in their place stood the truth. Sometimes the ones we dismiss, the ones we underestimate, are the very people who hold the strength to save us all. Never call someone useless. Everyone carries a gift, and sometimes it's hidden until the world desperately needs it. If this story inspired you, subscribe for more tales that prove no one is ever truly worthless.